Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host Bill Stierle. And Bill, I want to paint a picture for our audience. It is of a seemingly elderly man sitting in a chair in a big room, looks kind of cold, and he's holding his hands out to warm his hands in front of a really warm fire, like your classic view of a fireplace. But you pan back in this picture a little bit and you see he's not actually warming his hands in front of a fireplace. He's sitting in front of a painting, like, a oil and canvas type of painting of a warm fireplace, which clearly it's flat. There's no depth to it. There's no fire. There's no heat. And there's a caption under it that says, most people don't really want the truth. They just want constant reassurance that what they believe is the truth. And wow, is that illuminating, pardon the pun, fireplace. Yes. But yes. It's illuminating. And when we see, with a lot of things that we see happening right now,
yes,
in our country, that people really don't seem to care so much about the truth as much as they care about believing that they are right.
Yeah. This is really, really hard. This picture of the guy sitting on the chair getting warmed by a picture is, of a fireplace is unsettling because it plays into and is a great representation for what our brain does when it's already made a decision. It just needs reassurance about the decision. Trump is going to be the person that is able to, only he can get things done. And only he can make the changes that are needed. And, it's unsettling because as the person is sitting there believing the illusion, time is ticking. And they're validating their identity. They're saying to themselves, no, this is going to keep me warm. This will keep me warm. It really, really will. Now, the brain does make it real, even though it's not. It can hold out hope that it's real and the body warms itself. It can actually do some physiological changes. If I promise you ice cream, Tom, your brain will start thinking about ice cream. If I promise you your favorite ice cream, it will follow that belief that you're going to get some. And it's the same thing for what's been happening with messaging. And it has severely affected the difference between what is legally true and what is a personal belief. And is it professionally ethical for somebody to blatantly go, oh yeah, we know that this thing is true. We just got to keep digging until we know it's true. And it's the same, it's the same thing with many things that have been done in the past that have been, long, and, it's all it is that I'm having flashbacks to the Benghazi, experience of how they kept trying to turn over rocks. And all that it took was for Hillary to say one sentence that was out of alignment. And that becomes the broadcast piece that they need to say, hey, we gotcha. But there was 11 hours of none of that. And that's one of the challenges that's happening in our current environment of propaganda and the reinforcing of beliefs and biases and fallacies for one side to create the illusion for the other side to believe is true. And again, it's really unsettling and disturbing. And you and I even carry different beliefs, that aren't really true, but we were taught it, and it's still unsettling. So,
well, you know what, Bill? I think that's a really good point you just made, because I think we all do carry some beliefs that are not true. And maybe that's a good place to start rather than get into what I think can be seen as, either partisan or ideologically, opposite, rather than go into some of what I think are the obvious things, which we do need to discuss. Have you ever had a belief, Bill, that you came to discover was not true?
I think, the main one that has really disturbed the crap out of me, especially over the holidays, was the one about carrots and eyesights.
What do you mean? Carrot? Don't we all? I mean, I remember being told as a kid that if I ate a lot of carrots, it would help my eyesight.
Right. It was it was my 18-year-old son that called me on it. He goes, well, yeah, you eat carrots. It's healthy for you. It's good for your eyesight. He goes, that's not true. I go, what do you mean it's not true? And we literally went on to Google, and it says that the English propagated that story as a cover for, we can see, the English pilots can see at night because they eat carrots, just to cover the fact that they had radar and they could fly at night, where you can't fly. The other pilots didn't have the technology to fly at night because they didn't have radar to find things. Well,
wait, Bill. You're telling me that the notion that carrots improve your eyesight, what we were all told as kids, eat your carrots because it's good for your eyes, was a bunch of garbage, and that it was propaganda the English in World War II came up with?
That's right. That was
it was a smokescreen for technology of radar.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, I've always known from history, radar was a new technology that emerged in World War II, and that they were fine tuning. In fact, if you've ever seen or read any of the stories of the attack on Pearl Harbor, they had a radar installation in Hawaii, and there was this massive reading on the radar, and they're all like, no, it's a flock of birds, or no, they thought it was something else. They didn't realize it was, this amazing invasion wave of Japanese planes coming to attack us. So it was in its infancy at the beginning of World War II.
Right. That's right. It was at the beginning, and it was a ruse to keep German pilots confused. It was a propaganda campaign, and I even put in our chart a picture of two little kids standing in front of a sign that has a picture of carrots on a stick instead of ice cream, because another part of it is that they were rationing sugar, and they weren't using, they didn't want the population to eat as much sugar, so they got rid of the ices and they put carrots on a stick and said, hey kids, eat carrots on a stick because it's good for your eyesight. And
I don't know how many kids would be, too excited about eating a carrot on a stick, but.
Well, I don't know about excited about it, but it's the only thing they got. In other words,
Yeah.
it's being sold to them as. And if you do eat one carrot, it has a, taste to it. Now, vitamin A does help with eyesight deficiency, but that's taking one little piece of science and exploding it and going like, yeah, well, carrots, all of a sudden, whoo, like this whole thing. And, as I'm sitting at, around the Thanksgiving table and I'm hearing this thing at carrots, I actually just started getting mad. And what I was most mad about is that belief, that bias occupied so much time and space in my brain. It was like, oh my gosh, what else is in there that I can discard? What else do I need to rewrite? Because the brain craves for certainty. It wants to trust things. We have an inherent trust in another person. So when somebody gets on the news media, we think somebody is vetting this person. Nobody's vetting this person. The person is on there and they're just saying things, First Amendment, they're saying things that might not be true and also might be dangerous and might not. If there was a consequence for somebody coming on TV and blatantly lying, there's a consequence to the network, you will be fined $500,000. I just made it big. $100,000 might get it done. You will get tangled up in court if you put this person on that mentions a conspiracy. You will be fined for that because of the public damage that will do. But see, the problem is that politicians stretch truth too. And so, well, if we find the regular person that comes on, or if we find the media puts us, how are we going to cover these characters that need to negotiate and make a deal and walk things back? Well, it's just, allowing, it to, do, and a lot of stupid things have come out of this and dangerous and bad things have come out of this.
Well, so. Bill, I can sense the sort of exasperation in your voice over the whole carrot revelation. And it's very interesting to me because I can completely see how that happened. It probably was a pretty good idea to not reveal to the Germans, the English over there in Europe, hey, we've got this new technology and we're going to be able to bomb all your cities at night and we're going to win the war. I mean, that's really not something that you do. You instead try to hide the technology. You propagate the lie because it had a strategic purpose in the overall war effort. And I'm sure nobody in England who knew this had any problem whatsoever with propagating that lie. And I think a lot of us, even looking back in the rearview mirror of history, wouldn't have a big problem with that lie. But Bill, you sounded to me when you talked about that kind of like the kid that's learned that the tooth fairy is not real, or that Santa Claus doesn't really come down the chimney and deliver presents and put them nice and neatly under your tree.
Same thing. It's the same thing. It's people don't like the truth. When you're comfortable with a belief that is good for you, makes some sense, that you can buy into, our brain doesn't like that too much. It gets, and especially now with the oversaturation of information, I mean, people are just clinging to old things and going like, I don't want to rethink that. But but I'm looking at the person, but you're a 50-year-old person. You need to rethink this. Now, if you were 90, okay, don't rethink it. But if you're 50, you may want to rethink it. You might get some, no, my parents were always Democrats. They're always going to be Democrats. They're always Republicans. They're always going to be Republicans. I'm not rethinking this. those other people are socialists. What? Socialists? You want to know what operationally socialism is? It's like not this. And socialism, or these two systems, capitalism and socialism working together, is actually the combination of what we're experiencing. That's really where the truth is. So very, very unsettling because.
Well, Bill, it's no wonder, since, I mean, as a culture, all of us who are parents so easily lie to our children and propagate the myth of the tooth fairy and of Santa Claus. I'm not making a religious statement here. Let's just be clear. I mean, I'm talking about like bringing, Santa Claus is going to travel around the world at night, delivering presents to all the children, this whole thing. And that we so easily, cling to this, and we subscribe to these, this propagating of, in fact, lies. No wonder it's so easy for us as human beings, or some of us anyway, to do this, whether it's on television or on social media.
Yes.
And I'm going to come back to the image of the painting, which, by the way, for all of our audience, that is on the blog post at purchasingtruth.com, where you can see the image of this, and it's really worth going to see, as well as the image, Bill, that you've contributed regarding the kids looking at a sign for an advertisement for carrots on a stick. But that people don't necessarily want to have their beliefs challenged. And that's really what we're talking about here. And it gets to a point of being dangerous. So let's bring this into context of the present, shall we?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So I think most people listening to this podcast have probably heard the name Christopher Krebs. And Christopher Krebs was a part of the Trump administration. He was the lead he's the former cybersecurity official for the Department of Homeland Security, I believe, that was in charge of making sure that our elections are safe. He's appointed by Trump. He's a lifelong Republican. I think he's around 42 years old. And this guy is sharp, and he knows his stuff. And he, along with a team of people, have worked for 3.5 years before this election in 2020 to make sure that our elections are safe, that people can trust their vote. And he's the one that came out after the election, I forget how many days, or if it was a week or two, but came out and said, hey, this election was the most secure in the history of our country, making just a blanket statement that he's making it, I guess I don't have the evidence, but I'm going to say he was coming out and making a fact-based, truthful statement. And he's the guy that would know, because his department was charged. The guy
would know. Yep. He would.
And so he also came out and was interviewed on 60 Minutes, because, by the way, after he made this statement, he was fired by Trump by tweet, which is sort of the modern thing, firing by tweet. And of course, Trump cast doubt in what Christopher Krebs was saying. Trump was saying, much of what he said is inaccurate and all this sort of stuff. There was massive fraud. Of course, Trump continuing to propagate what he wants people to believe. So Christopher Krebs was on 60 Minutes and really laid it out. And boy, I'll tell you, that took, I think, some bravery to go on 60 Minutes national program and talk about how, unsettling it was to have the president fire you that way, and to not be able to, say thank you to your team, and, say goodbye to them or whatever, and just, no, you're out, because I don't like what you said.
Yes. Yeah.
But so anyway, I highly recommend, people watch that 60 Minutes interview, because one of the things that I think it did very well is I think it will reassure most, if not all, Americans who watch it, certainly most who watch it, that your vote was properly counted. Whoever you voted for,
handled,
that the process works, that in America, voting, which is one of our most cherished values, or I don't know if it's a value, but actions, I guess, as citizens, is secure and it works. So Christopher Krebs went on and he explained and shared why he's certain, and why what we've seen in a bunch of the recounts have not resulted in a major swing of votes one way or the other, because the process is sound.
So here's the problem. The big problem is that as soon as a propagandist, as soon as somebody says something that doesn't meet the need for truth, there needs to be 10 times the counterweight to that sentence for the brain to have or pick up the piece of information that the thing that they just been shown is not true. Because otherwise their brain will get hijacked, because their identity is with the person that's not telling the truth. It needs to be a 10 times fold. So this is where media is being too reactive instead of proactive. So we knew Trump was protesting the voter count of Hillary Clinton's 3 million more votes, and said that it was a fraud. He planted the seeds. He's been watering it for 4 years. The thing is turned into this entire weed thicket already, or a tree stand, so that he can just water it more towards the end of the presidency, and then stir up this, not only, a wedge for his base, but also, a wedge for the nation to, get people to side with him and believe that it was false. So, because there's got to be some false, because otherwise he wouldn't have said it. Now, he is using it as a fundraising campaign, help raise money for these legal charges. He's getting money out of folks. And by the way, some people are asking for their money back. The one guy that donated $2.5 million is going like, wait a minute, you guys just took my money now, didn't you? And you're going to drop the cases and you're going to keep my money? I don't think so. I want my money back. Let's go, wait a minute. And the reason why media is not doing a great job here is because when they see the truth, they're expecting people to believe them, instead of realizing they're in the propaganda business now too. They have to get the significant picture, insight, belief, the sentence that buries the message, the negative message, or the propaganda message. They've got to get that in front of people, or otherwise, it becomes a zombie thought. I mean, zombie thoughts are one of my favorite things to talk about. It's a thought that's in your head, just like zombies eat brains. The thought eats your brain because you occupied all this time thinking about a thought that is not valid, that is no help. It's a zombie thought. So all of us have these zombie thoughts.
Like eating carrots will improve your eyesight.
Eating carrots will improve your eyesight is an example of a zombie thought. I'm going like, oh, really? So every time I was in the grocery store, I was buying carrots, and I didn't know that my zombie thought was causing me to impulse to buy the carrot. Why don't I buy the carrot? Because I like the carrot. No, it's not been sold that way. It's been sold as an eyesight piece, that there's some vitamin A in there that is going to be have some kind of significance.
Well, Bill, now what's really very concerning about what's happening in our 24-hour news media, and I don't even know if that's what we should call it, but I'm calling it that for the moment, is that one of Trump's attorneys, Joe DeGenova, said on a television show, anybody who thinks the election went well, like that idiot Krebs, now referring to Christopher Krebs, who we were just talking about, like that idiot Krebs who used to be the head of cybersecurity, that guy is a Class A moron. He should be drawn and quartered, taken out at dawn, and shot. And I read that and I'm like, what? I mean, that is so unsettling and shocking. An attorney is now calling for violence against this civil servant who did his job just because you don't like what he said, that what he is letting everyone know about the reality of the election is not in alignment with how you want the story to end.
Yes.
This is now getting to another level.
Well, he is getting the press that he wants. I mean, this attorney that is saying the sentence, that will become viral. That will get traction. That will get energy. It's like, I need to, and here's an attorney saying anybody with my identity or my belief needs to take the law into their own hands. Now, the poor 17-year-old that went with the rifle and shot the people during a protest was the same kid. He was the one that believed that the police needed help. He was the one that believed that the violence was going to take place and that he needed to do something. He needs to shoot that gun.
Yeah, it was Kyle
because he's a part of he's a part of the solution. He's not part of the problem. He doesn't know that his young brain got hijacked by an older person's brain that wanted to just stir the pot to get people riled up. You don't know that. So it's very, very, very unsettling. It's the adult brain versus the kid brain. Well, what does that mean? Well, that the kid brain gets to believe in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. And the adult brain, it gets to go, well, the Tooth Fairy is a character that is going to give money for a tooth so that you can see that even with pain, there's some pleasure that's going to come somewhere. And it happens to come in the form of cash by somebody that's dressed up the way they are in a tooth fairy and puts a quarter or a dollar or $5 or a penny underneath the pillow. Santa Claus, there's an entire book written. The name of the book is called When Santa Was a Shaman, because Santa Claus is an image that is 10,000 years old.
Wow.
10,000. The image that we see, Tom, was created by Coca-Cola in 1933, 32, as a part of the Macy's Day Parade. They put a red suit on this guy. They put a beard. They got him out of the scruffy shaman clothes and they put him in a red suit so it matches the Coca-Cola color, red and white.
Wow. Marketing is, again, showing its power, isn't it?
Right. That's right. Marketing. And you know what? It's not a bad thing, because it creates some kind of joy, some stability, some mystery, some curiosity, some magic. And human beings, it's good to have magic, but it's when that type of propaganda is placed on something that costs lives, or just to get the message, the negative message heard, or the message against your supposed enemy, and you take a swat at truth because of it. That is what is being done in language right now, is that the violence in entertainment is okay, but is violence in politics okay? No, it's not. It's not really okay.
And where's the ethical line? I mean, these lawyers, this one who's made this statement on television, like Christopher Krebs, as well as Rudy Giuliani, who makes all kinds of outlandish statements on television at press conferences all the time, making all these accusations of fraud, when every time Giuliani's gotten in front of a judge, he's asked about fraud, he's like, oh, no, we're not alleging fraud. Because there's a consequence for a lawyer lying to a judge, lying in court.
That's right.
But that same consequence doesn't exist when you're on a podium in front of a microphone on television.
No, it is not. There's the power of being on television has been a badge of authority, a badge of respect, a badge of knowledge or information. See, you can even write a book that's not very good. And because you've written a book, people go, oh my God, you wrote a book. You must know something because you put one word next to another. Yeah, it doesn't say much, but you know, it is a book. But if you're promoting that book and that book gets traction because the title is interesting, then all of a sudden people will read it, but that's not what's most important. Is that you wrote a book is what's important. Because you wrote a book, most people don't write a book because then you have to put one sentence after the next. And then that creates a thing called a paragraph that's supposed to mean something that leads into the next paragraph. It's supposed to lead into the next chapter that then bounces you, the reader, into the next chapter. See, I mean, I'm being funny about it, but it's also disturbing that we assign or hand over, credibility in certain kinds of ways that has a tragedy to it, but it also takes away from the gravity of being on TV and the ethics or the responsibility that it takes to be on there. If you're being lifted and promoted in that way, then you may want to go after truth a little bit. You better let truth be on your side a little bit, not go completely, well, that's just this thing, and I'm just going to say this thing just so I can get the ratings because I was told to do that. It's like, no, there's no accountability in that space. And that's the thing you're pointing out is the accountability is not setting in that spot.
Accountability is not there. And boy, I mean, freedom of speech is this value we cherish as Americans, and I cherish it. I am, very, very happy to be an American citizen and live in this country and have the freedoms we have. But boy, you got to live by them when you like them, when they're in alignment with you, and you got to live with them when they're not in alignment with you. And that can be challenging at times.
Even on our podcast, even as we're, exercising the ability to speak up and talk about truth the way we're trying to talk about truth, there are other people saying, wait a minute, now I believe the truth is this because I have this degree in psychology, or I have this, information over here. I got this job. I worked for this company. Well, how long did you work for them? 3 months. Well, I don't know. What'd you accomplish while you're there? Huh? There's got to be some kind of doing, some kind of, gravity to do that. And you and I have talked about this on the past, where here's Hillary Clinton with an entire resume of working in different departments, being a senator, working in the State Department. It's like, oh my gosh, all of the different jobs and all the different people she needed to integrate with and needed to practice her leadership skills. And a TV host takes her out because he's better at propaganda than she is. I mean, all he had to do was call her a liar, a crooked. All he had to do was call her crooked for a year and a half. And then and then create some doubt about her crookedness.
Pretty junky, pretty scary stuff.
Pretty scary stuff. So our nation does have a reckoning about the balance of freedom of speech and the embracing of truth. I mean, we have a reckoning around that. We have to heal that part of ourselves. We've got to know that, hey, if we want to talk about Santa Claus, something that's not going to lose anybody's life over it. We need to embrace that as here are some things, and we know the good reason why we are talking this way about this particular subject, because it helps keep the mystery alive for children. It helps get them to anticipate the holiday season. It gets them to participate in family and connection and community and putting a tree up. I mean, the Christmas tree is, a pagan ritual. It's not a Christmas tree. It's not for Christmas, but it's at Christmas time. It's at the time that was designated for Christmas. And you see, we've got all these kinds of things. It's like a head scratcher, right? It's like, wait a minute, what are we doing? What are we doing for truth? And what are we going to decide on what we're going to really tackle as truth, and say, wait a minute, the adult person can handle that this event was put next to this event and the truth of that, instead of going like, is anybody going to die over that? No one's going to die over it. But we also got to do a better job of the adult mind going like, yeah, that's not truth, but I'm not fixing that one. I'm not going to rail against that one.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things for us to kind of talk about here in regards to truth and how violence in the entertainment, the professional ethics of attorneys and of doctors, and how we assign weight to authorities, and being able to roll up our sleeves around, because we do need to return to a culture that has dignity and honor and respect with the truth. And people that are not doing the truth, and even if it's, to get their own name out there, we've got to be a lot more proactive about dealing with propaganda messages earlier. And I think that's where the new media has to go very quickly. And, it's got to get in front of pieces of propaganda and go like, wait a minute, that's not true. I'm not promoting that. Even if it costs me clicks, I'm not promoting it.
It'd be nice for it to be more clear. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If what you're consuming is more truth and fact or entertainment, and for people to realize when they're comfortable with something they're consuming because it's just in alignment with their beliefs rather than being objectively true. That's where it can get dangerous. And my concern right now is that somebody is going to harm Christopher Krebs because a very prominent attorney on television went out and said he should be taken out at dawn and shot. That to me crossed a line.
Yeah.
A big one.
Yeah. It's like how far down the chain does the Secret Service need to go to protect people to do right? We're protecting the president. We protect the vice president. We protect certain,
we protect cabinet members with the
cabinet members.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We protect a bunch of people, but all of a sudden, if you got people just shooting accusations about doing violence against others, where's the accountability? And I think that's a little scary because we want to be able to say what we need to say. But if you're talking violence against somebody, that's one thing. And if it's not done in an quote unquote entertainment context, and it's done in a real context, like in regards to a public servant, I mean, that's not good at all for a civil society. It really isn't.
Agreed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how we're going to restore our integrity and look at bringing honor back to things. And when the media gets better at facing some of these issues, it will It will be more proactive about things that are not true in a very sustained way. And I hope it does that. I hope that there's some space on that. Yeah. So that'll help us gain truth. Yep. All right.
Okay, Bill, thanks so much. I really appreciate this discussion today. Much needed.
Okay.
I think.
It is much needed. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.